Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my little creeps and freaks. The Simpsons has been called America's favorite family, and for good reason. The long-running animated sitcom has had us laughing for years. But there are some who believe there might be something more sinister hiding underneath the yellow veil in that town of Springfield. Take a listen to some of the strangest predictions The Simpsons just happen to keep getting right. I'm Taylor, your casual crypt keeper, and this is the top 5 unsettling Simpsons predictions that came true in 2023. Do the Simpsons writers have a crystal ball, or has the show just been on for 30 years and there's hundreds and hundreds of episodes and a lot of convenient coincidences? Let us know down below. Number 5, the Titan Submersible. No doubt you have recently heard of the Titan sub and the tragedies surrounding it. I mean, it's pretty much the only story that's been in the news for the last 2 weeks, after it imploded in an attempt to carry passengers to the wreckage of the Titanic. Now, before we knew the exact extent of what had happened early in the story's development, many were very concerned about the vessel's oxygen supply, and for some, in classic Simpsons fashion, were convinced that the Simpsons might have eerily predicted the scenario with an unsettling accuracy. In the 2016 episode Simpson Tide, we follow Homer going on an expedition reuniting with what he thought was his long-lost father Mason, a millionaire explorer. The two of them go on an expedition underwater, searching for the treasure of a sunken ship in 2 little personal subs, similar to how 2 passengers on the fateful sub were a father and son, similar to the episode. Now, that's one thing. But what makes this kind of interesting is that this episode was produced by Mike Reiss, the long-running showrunner of The Simpsons, who also happened to be a passenger of the Titan Submersible in the past, not just once, but 3 times. So it's entirely possible that this episode was inspired by his own experiences. Mike Reiss, infinitely braver person than me, been on the sub 3 different times, and said that they almost always lost communication. Recently, he spoke out about his experiences. Obviously, everybody wants to talk to him as he has been on this one thing that's dominating the headlines, and on BBC Breakfast recently, he shared saying he was not very optimistic about the missing passengers having been found alive, saying they knew what they were getting themselves into. Rice was quoted as saying, "I got on the sub and at the back of my mind was, well, I may never get off this thing. That's always with you. If it's down at the bottom, I don't know how anyone is going to be able to access it, much less bring it back up." Now, in the episode of The Simpsons, obviously Homer is fine because he's a cartoon character, but tragically, the passengers on the sub were not recovered. A very, very grave reminder of how scary undersea travel can be. And if you're looking for more videos of all things scary, unnatural, and unknown, Top 5 Scary has all of that and then some. We've got something freaky on just about everything you can think of. Simpsons predictions, Frankenstein's ghouls, you name it. Hit subscribe, make sure you ring that little bell as well so you don't miss a single thing, but do it at the end of this video because I got 4 more Simpsons predictions for you. Number 4, the Stonecutters. Coming up at our next point is going to be about the Stonecutters, the secret allegiance that runs Springfield. Now, season 6 has got to be one of the best seasons of The Simpsons out there. There are a ton of classic episodes. Got the Who Shot Mr. Burns plotline, but one of the more memorable episodes is Homer the Great, where a downtrodden Homer feels that he has no place in this world or higher meaning until he finds himself involved in a gentleman's club called the Stonecutters, a secret centuries-old order Homer finds himself at the center of when he is revealed to be the prophesized chosen one of the group. This obviously sounds incredibly similar to the very well-known Freemason organization. Stonecutter, Mason, Masons work with stones. Pretty easy to figure out what they're alluding to. Are the Simpsons writers trying to reveal something? As it turns out, the Stonecutters are far more than just a place for the guys to play dominoes and kick back. They're a clandestine lobby group pulling all the strings behind the scenes. The Stonecutters are behind everything. They rig the Oscars, they bury the electric car, they keep the Martians under wrap, and they find consistent work for 80s icon Steve Guttenberg. The Stonecutters are a good stand-in for any sort of conspiracy you believe. Freemasons, Illuminati, any New World Order can fit in nicely to this. The Stonecutters are a very obvious stand-in for various conspiracies like the Freemasons, the Illuminati, New World Order, and if you believe any of those conspiracies, and I bet you do if you watch these videos, allegedly they run the world behind the scenes. Always rumored and long thought that they're controlling everything from the shadows. Could the Simpsons writers be letting the public know about their sinister dealings? How these organizations work? Could Homer's secret society of monkeys from the end of the episode be pulling the strings? Maybe. Now, if I was a secret cabal that had made the world into my puppets, one of the first things I would do is discredit all the theories about my organization by putting them into episodes of a beloved animated comedy show, making it seem like you'd have to be an absolute kook to believe in it. But that's just what I would do if I was part of a very secret organization that was running the world. Not that I am, of course. Number 3, Siegfried and Roy. Now, some of our younger viewers might not have any idea who these guys are. Or maybe you're like me, and you know these guys more through parodies than you do as real icons, or you absorb all your pop culture through The Simpsons. In the season 5 episode Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, an absolute favorite of mine, Mr. Burns dominates Springfield's wharf after the town legalizes gambling in a way to revitalize its economy. This is a top 5 for me. You got Homer making fun of Marge's gambling addiction, being named Gambler, Mr. Burns going Howard Hughes, living alone, and Homer's hilariously bad Florida costume for Lisa. Oh, top tier episode. One of the better parts is Gunther and Ernst, the Siegfried and Roy parody. The pair of German performers who are a stand-in for Siegfried and Roy, the famous Las Vegas act featuring tigers. Now, in this episode, Gunther and Ernst joke that their tiger Anastasia loves her new life in show business compared to the wild of the jungle. We get a little flashback to Anastasia sleeping happily before she's apprehended by the duo. The scene then cuts back and Anastasia sicks herself on the duo, savagely tearing them apart. Very quick throwaway joke at the expense of two very minor Simpsons side characters, but in 2003, it would become kind of tragic when an extremely similar incident would happen to the duo. During a show, a tiger named Manticore attacked Roy critically, leaving him with a stroke and unable to ever perform again. No comment on whether or not the real duo ever saw the Simpsons episode. The writing team commented on the unfortunate coincidence, saying obviously they had no idea that that would ever happen, but they did state it was bound to happen eventually. As it stands, it's now a bit of a lip-biting moment that seems a little bit in poor taste in an otherwise absolutely hilarious episode. Number 2, an economic crash. Look, things are not doing too great economy-wise lately. I don't know where you live, but I bet it's not doing too great there. You tried to buy butter recently? Trip to the grocery store just ain't what it used to be. Maybe the Simpsons writing team knows more than they're letting on. In a recent-ish episode from the 24th season, Homer goes to prep school. Homer meets a new friend, voiced by Tom Waits. Bizarrely enough, okay. The man overhears Homer talking about how he doesn't think society could survive a collapse, and the man agrees with him and warns Homer that soon there'll be an economic disaster and the supermarkets will collapse and the United States will fall too. Homer insists that America can't fall because it's a strong empire like Rome. The man then shows Homer an unspecified vague video with no dates or anything that warn him of a vague impending apocalypse. You've probably seen a lot of videos exactly like that on TikTok. Homer then joins their cult-like group of survivalist preppers, prepping for what they believe to be the inevitable apocalypse. Now, this is a very real phenomenon. Preppers are a recognized group. There was a whole reality show about them for a while, so that's all very real. Whether or not there's an incoming collapse, like immediately, well, who's to say? I'm not an economist, I'm just a YouTube host. So all I can say is that I've noticed butter and honey are a lot more expensive than they usually are, and those YouTube ad dollars ain't coming in the way they used to. In the end of the episode, Homer inadvertently triggers an event that causes a collapse in Springfield, but to his and the preppers' dismay, society bounces back like nothing happened. So maybe we don't need to be so worried. Society recovers. That's a beautiful message. As long as we have each other and a couple people remember some good jokes from The Simpsons, I think we'd survive an apocalypse. Although there was no electricity, I'm not really sure how we'd log into our Disney Plus accounts and stream the episodes. And I mean, if there was no electricity, you couldn't watch Top 5 Scary. So let's try to avoid any full-scale societal collapses for a bit. Then I actually don't mind society so much. I don't think it's so bad. And number 1, the NSA and Tom Hanks. Take your brain all the way back to the summer of 2007, would you kindly? What a simpler time. Linkin Park on the airwaves and The Simpsons movie in theaters. The Simpsons movie was a classic, basically just 2 hours of some of the best jokes the Simpsons writers ever had, taking the show we love to its biggest extremes. After Springfield's toxic waste problem becomes too much to bear on the rest of the country, President Schwarzenegger decides that the best solution is to place a big glass dome over the city of Springfield to contain the problem. The Simpsons escape and find themselves on the run all throughout the country, eventually finding themselves on a train. While they're on the train, funny enough, there's a little joke at Disney. Bart puts a bra on his head to look like Mickey Mouse and says he's the symbol of an evil corporate overlord. That's pretty funny because now, who owns The Simpsons again these days? Anyway, Marge is talking to Lisa about how they need to get to Seattle to tell everyone of the plot to destroy Springfield. And Lisa shushes her mom, warning her not to speak so loudly because people on the train could be listening. Marge reassures her that no one is listening until it's revealed that a dummy conductor, a robot conductor, has been listening and broadcasting everything to the NSA. Governments surveilling you at every moment has always been a popular conspiracy theory, but after the revelations of 2013, when it came out that the NSA was in fact doing this exact thing on the general American population, a funny joke now seems prophetic. There's another good prediction in the Simpsons movie that matches up pretty well with our world. Near the end of the film, Tom Hanks films a promotional video for the US government and says, "The US government has lost its credibility, so it's borrowing some of mine." It's a pretty funny joke from America's dad. But then in 2022, this pretty much happened for actual real when the current administration ran an anniversary campaign ad featuring Tom Hanks narrating the events of the first year of the Biden administration. Everyone raced to Twitter to comment that, yep, once again, The Simpsons hit the nail on the head. The Simpsons did it first. And that's about all she wrote for this one, my little ghouls and goblins. Take it easy now, creep on creeping on, and I'll see you in the next one long as Matt Groening doesn't sue.